California has long been a stronghold for the Democratic Party. For decades, the state has consistently favored Democratic candidates in presidential and statewide elections. The last Republican governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger, left office in 2011 after winning a recall election in 2003 and a subsequent re-election in 2006. Since then, no Republican has managed to secure a statewide office, reflecting a deep blue political leaning. This dominant Democratic presence has shaped policy and governance across the Golden State for many years. The sheer voter registration numbers have historically presented a formidable barrier for any Republican aspirations, making California one of the most reliably Democratic states in the nation. This established pattern makes any significant shift noteworthy. However, recent electoral results suggest subtle but interesting movements within the California electorate. The 2024 presidential election, for instance, showed an uptick in Republican support. While Kamala Harris comfortably won her home state with 58.5% of the vote, Donald Trump secured 38% of the California vote. This figure represents an increase from his 34.3% share in 2020. This nearly 4-point gain, while not flipping the state, indicates a segment of the electorate may be reconsidering its allegiances or, at the very least, is more willing to vote Republican than in the immediate past. These shifts, though modest, are crucial data points for understanding the evolving political dynamics in a state often seen as uniformly progressive. The increase in Republican vote share was not just a statewide phenomenon, it manifested in specific geographical shifts. Donald Trump managed to flip 10 counties in 2024 that had previously been won by Joe Biden in 2020. These counties include areas like Butte, Fresno, and San Joaquin, suggesting a broadening of Republican appeal in diverse regions of the state, including agricultural and more inland communities. Such changes at the county level can be early indicators of wider trends or growing dissatisfaction with the status quo in particular areas. These localized victories provide the GOP with small but tangible successes to build upon as they look towards future election cycles, including the upcoming 2026 gubernatorial race. Furthermore, demographic shifts in voting patterns also contributed to the Republican gains. Notably, support for Donald Trump among Latino voters in California saw a significant increase, rising to 38% in 2024 from 29% in 2020. Support among Latino men was even stronger, reaching 42%. This growing support within a key demographic group is a critical development. For years, the Republican Party has struggled to make substantial inroads with Latino voters in California. This recent trend, if it continues, could alter the electoral calculus in the state, forcing both parties to reevaluate their outreach and messaging strategies to this increasingly influential segment of the population. A significant driver behind any potential shift in California's political landscape is growing voter dissatisfaction on several key issues. The high cost of living consistently ranks as a top concern for many Californians. A March 2025 Decipher poll of 700 likely voters starkly highlighted this sentiment. The poll revealed that a staggering 71% of respondents believe the state's governor and legislative leaders have failed to adequately address the soaring expenses associated with daily life in California. This widespread frustration over economic pressures, from housing to gas prices, creates an environment where voters may be more receptive to alternative political solutions and leadership, potentially opening a door for Republican arguments. Crime and public safety have also emerged as prominent issues fueling voter discontent. The same Decipher poll found that 73% of likely voters support fully funding Proposition 36. This proposition is designed to increase penalties for certain theft and drug crimes, indicating a public desire for stricter law and order measures. Concerns about rising crime rates coupled with debates over criminal justice reform have left many Californians feeling uneasy. This anxiety provides an opening for candidates who prioritize public safety and advocate for tougher approaches to crime. The Republican Party often campaigns on a strong law and order platform, which could resonate with a significant portion of the electorate troubled by current trends. Healthcare policy, particularly concerning undocumented immigrants, is another area where voter opinion appears to diverge from current state policies. The March 2025 Decipher poll indicated that 60% of likely California voters oppose providing free healthcare for undocumented immigrants. This finding suggests a potential disconnect between some state-level policies and the preferences of a majority of the electorate. Such a divergence can create political vulnerabilities for the incumbent party. Republicans may find an opportunity to appeal to voters who are concerned about the fiscal implications and fairness of these healthcare policies, framing it as an issue of responsible governance and resource allocation for legal residents and citizens. Beyond these specific flashpoints, a general sense of economic pressure and dissatisfaction with the status quo pervades. Persistent housing shortages continue to plague the state, driving up costs and making homeownership an unattainable dream for many. General economic anxieties, including job security and inflation, further contribute to a restless electorate. These multifaceted economic challenges, combined with the aforementioned concerns about cost of living, crime, and specific healthcare policies, paint a picture of a California populace that is increasingly critical of its leadership's ability to solve pressing problems. This environment of discontent is a crucial factor that Republican strategists will undoubtedly seek to leverage in the lead-up to 2026. An examination of voter registration trends provides some context for the challenges and opportunities facing Republicans. As of 2024, California's registered voters are 46% Democrat, 25% Republican, and 22% identify as no party preference or independent. While Democrats still hold a commanding lead in registration, the Republican share of 25% represents a slight increase from lower levels observed in 2020. This small uptick, combined with the substantial block of no-party preference voters, suggests that the electoral landscape is not entirely static. The sizable independent voter population, in particular, represents a key target for both parties, as their preferences can often swing elections, especially if they are dissatisfied with the dominant party. Early polling for the 2026 gubernatorial race indicates a wide-open field, characterized by a high number of undecided voters. An October 2024 Berkeley IGS poll surveying 4,341 registered voters found that a remarkable 52% of voters were undecided about their choice for governor. This high level of uncertainty so far out from the election is not unusual, but it does underscore the potential for significant shifts as candidates emerge and campaigns take shape. In such a fluid environment, there is ample room for lesser-known candidates to gain traction, and for voter sentiment to crystallize around new options, especially if established figures fail to inspire enthusiasm or address pressing concerns effectively. The same Berkeley IGS poll provided an early glimpse at candidate preferences, though the large, undecided block tempers any firm conclusions. Among combined first and second choice preferences, Democrat Katie Porter registered at 13%, closely followed by Republican Chad Bianco at 12%, and Republican Brian Dahl at 11%. Other Democratic hopefuls like Eleni Kounalakis, Antonio Villaraigosa, and Xavier Becerra hovered around 7%. Among Republican voters specifically, Chad Bianco led with 34% support, with Brian Dahl at 31%. These figures suggest a competitive, albeit nascent, Republican primary field and indicate that no single candidate from either party has yet captured the broad attention of the electorate. Perhaps the most striking piece of recent polling data comes from the March 2025 Decipher I survey. It found that 48% of likely California voters are open to voting for a Republican governor in 2026. This near majority expressing openness to a Republican leader is a significant finding in a state as historically blue as California. It suggests that the aforementioned voter dissatisfaction with issues like the cost of living and crime is translating into a willingness to consider alternatives beyond the Democratic Party. This openness does not guarantee a Republican victory, but it does signal a potential vulnerability for Democrats and an opportunity for a compelling Republican candidate with the right message. For California Republicans to capitalize on any voter discontent and translate openness into actual votes, candidate selection will be paramount. The party needs to field a candidate who can appeal beyond its traditional base, reaching out to disillusioned Democrats and, crucially, the large block of no-party preference voters. Current declared Republican candidates include Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco and former Fox News host Steve Hilton, with figures like Brian Dahl, who ran in 2022, also appearing in early polling. A successful candidate will likely need a profile that emphasizes problem-solving and a pragmatic approach, rather than purely ideological appeals, to resonate with a broader California electorate. Effective campaign messaging is equally critical. Republicans must craft a narrative that directly addresses the core concerns of California voters: the crushing cost of living, public safety, and the perceived failures of current state leadership to manage these issues. Highlighting specific policy proposals that offer tangible solutions will be more impactful than general criticisms. For example, focusing on measures to reduce regulatory burdens that drive up housing costs, or concrete plans to support law enforcement and address crime, could gain traction. The messaging needs to be disciplined, consistent, and tailored to resonate with the everyday anxieties of Californians across different demographic groups, including the growing segment of Latino voters showing increased GOP support. Despite these potential openings, the challenges for Republicans in California remain immense. The Democratic Party still enjoys a substantial voter registration advantage, with nearly twice as many registered Democrats as Republicans. No Republican has won a statewide office since 2006, and Governor Gavin Newsom secured his victories with comfortable margins, obtaining 61.9% in 2018 and 59.2% in 2022. Overcoming this entrenched Democratic dominance requires more than just voter frustration. It demands a near-perfect campaign, significant resources, and potentially a fractured Democratic field or a particularly uninspiring Democratic nominee. The GOP also made some small gains by flipping 3 seats in the state legislature in 2024. But these are minor victories in the grand scheme of state politics. Ultimately, the question of whether California can turn red in 2026, meaning elect a Republican governor, remains a long shot. However, the data suggests that the political ground might be less stable than it has been in previous cycles. Increased Republican vote shares in 2024, coupled with significant voter dissatisfaction and a notable percentage of voters open to a Republican governor, indicate that a more competitive race is conceivable. For the GOP, success will hinge on nominating a credible, broadly appealing candidate and running a disciplined, issues-focused campaign. While a full political realignment is unlikely, the conditions could allow for Republicans to make significant inroads and perhaps, under the right circumstances, achieve a surprising upset.